But I make more money with more perks, more fun, more everything here, and more freedom than I ever did there.
Welcome to Six Figure Trucker, the podcast where we share advice on how to be successful in trucking and have fun while doing so. We'll share stories, news, and advice on how to earn six figures in trucking, and we'll speak to guys and gals that are already doing so. Let's get to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. I'm John Madewell, your host, and joining us today is Lloyd Dittfurth. He's one of our deck drivers here at Norton Transport. We're lucky to have him, and actually Lloyd is joining us on the road right now. Of course, he has his headsets plugged in. Of course, safety first. Lloyd, how are you?
I am doing just peachy, just tightening up the bolts and getting things ready to go. That way I don't have to worry about things getting cattywampus on me whenever I go through Fort Worth here in a bit.
Cattywampus, what a great word. So you're not actually in the seat right now. You're actually getting your deck load ready?
Well, I'm stopped up about 150 miles outside of San Antonio, up here in Waco. A little truck stop. Actually, it's Elmont. It's called the Cowboy Truck Stop.
Okay.
And it's got a huge parking lot, easy on, easy off. So it's one of my... I'll pop over here, but they got a really good breakfast whenever you can get the cook to show up.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, you're at the truck stop. What kind of food they got there? Kind of run us through the menu there and what Lloyd likes.
Oh, I'm cheap and easy. Cheeseburgers and breakfast. That's about it. So I don't really know. I mean, they got burgers and chicken and all that stuff, but I don't ever. Hell, most of the time I don't ever actually look at a menu.
You know what you want?
Yeah, been eating the same kind of stuff since I was eating the same stuff all my life, I reckon.
Gotcha. And so
pretty simple.
And there's nothing wrong with simplicity. If you like it, you like it. On the road, let's say you're on a 4-day run. What's it going to be like for you as far as picking out what you're going to eat?
Oh, it's really just what's available. I'm more of a, I blast it out and go, and I may put 700-800 miles on it a day. So a lot of times I'll stop and get me a muscle milk or a couple of them and some protein bars, and that'll be my dinner. But the times I really kick back is whenever I hit the airports and I go to the United Club and chill out there, or I may lay over in the food court up there in O'Hare and stop into the, oh my gosh, I forget the name of it. There's a little burger joint, Billy Goat Tavern. And I'll get a burger there. It's pretty good.
Where is Billy Goat Tavern?
It's in the food court in C Terminal at O'Hare.
Okay, got you. You know your airports.
I'm pretty freakful. My wife has decided that I spend more time with the bartenders in the United Clubs and across the country than I do with her, which she's actually right. So.
How does that go over?
They know what I do and everything. So it's funny. The other night there's a couple of gals and they were telling me like, "Oh, you need to FaceTime your wife." She was busy at the time, so because she was at work. But she's like, "Yeah, FaceTime your wife so we can talk to her." I'm like, "Yeah, no, she's busy." So.
Tell me about how is that for you being a driver, a deck driver, spending a lot of time in the airports, and you'd mentioned the United Club. I mean, to have that, that's a luxury for a lot of people. I mean, that's got to be nice to have that perk.
Well, it's all about value, and anybody who flies, who does this job, you get layovers that are an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatnot. And you're going to sit there and spend $100 and just eating and drinking and everything. Well, I paid for my annual membership at the United Club. I paid $650, I think, for it, cash. Mm-hmm. I paid for that within 2 weeks of getting it. I started figuring it up and, how many beers I was drinking, how many times I ate and all that. And I mean, 'cause I fly a lot. And it paid for itself in about 2 weeks.
I was going to say that was a no-brainer there.
Yeah, it's extremely valuable. I recommend anybody get a club membership with whatever their main airline is.
So you're a United guy?
I've got two. I've actually got two. Yeah, I'm a United. I'm 1K with United. I've also got a Sky Club membership with Delta too, just in case I can't get a United flight and I fly Delta, which I try to stay always on United because I get free everything pretty well. They just pretty much do everything they can for me. So, but sometimes you get stuck on another airline.
Gotcha. We've talked to a number of drivers here on the Six Figure Trucker who fly frequently. And do you fly? We've talked to some guys that fly first class, some economy, some coach. What's the works for you?
Oh, so status is everything. And you can book a coach ticket in the back of the plane, but if you're flying 3 times a week, they're going to be like, oh, no, we have a seat open. You can sit up here in Comfort Plus. Or, oh, excuse me, Mr. Dittfurth, here's a first-class seat for you. I mean, they don't actually do that. Usually you just catch the bump and then you ride on up there. But most times I end up riding first class.
How much of a difference does that make?
It's really, I honestly, there's been several times I've actually traded my seat out just so I could, because I wasn't going to enjoy, like last night we had meatballs and couscous for dinner. Well, sometimes I don't eat. I'm just tired and everything. And like when I used to train, I had some guys that they didn't have status and stuff, and they had a pretty decent window seat. And so I swapped a guy out because he'd never been in first class. So I was like, here, take my seat. I'm going to go back there and sleep the rest of the night.
That must have made his day.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like giving away perks all the time. So that's one reason I got the United Club membership, is because I would, these guys, that they come out here and, when you start into this, until you figure it out and you start learning how to overcome things and how to get around things to make things cheaper. And I still make mistakes today, but I have learned a lot over the last year. And, when they start out, they're having to buy all their tools. They're having to buy this. They're having to buy that. They don't have status, so they have to pay for bags, and that might be $100. And, hotels are expensive, eating out and everything. And it's just, there's a lot of tricks that you learn in a way. So
put us in the bag of tricks of Lloyd there. What are some of the most valuable things you've learned over the last, let's see, you've been with us for 13 and a half months?
So I actually ironic enough, I started training to be a deckhand about a year ago, because I did, my 10,000 miles of singles. But really my things that I learned come from mistakes that I made. So one of the biggest deals is, you never know what Timbuktu town has an airport, right?
Mm-hmm. So
I delivered to a place out in Utah. I looked on the map, and by golly, it sit there and looked like Las Vegas was the closest airport. So I booked me a flight out of Las Vegas, and I sit there and I was like, all right, no biggie. And I Ubered to Las Vegas. And I get in the Uber. The guy says, why didn't you just fly out of here? And I'm like, what? So I learned Rome to Rio. It's just an app that it will tell you the fastest way. It may be taxi 5 miles down the street to the airport, or it may tell you to take a shuttle that runs 5 times a day down to Vegas or whatnot, and then catch a plane there. It tells you the cheapest. It tells you the most expensive. One of the best tools out there.
Rome to Rio.
Yeah. Another thing that I do, and we actually are about to start a list to put on our Facebook pages. I collect numbers for Ubers who do it for cash on the side,
mm-hmm.
and in all the major cities. That way, if I'm in Sauk Center, Minnesota, and there's one taxi guy there, that he'll give you a ride the 90 miles back to the airport, but he's going to charge you $450 for it. Well, I can call my guy who's out of Minneapolis and say, hey, man, you come get me? And sure, a couple $100. Boom, done.
These are just people you've developed personal relationships with.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, I actually got one guy, went to call him the other day up in Green Bay, because usually in Green Bay you go down to Appleton to fly out, but Green Bay just happened to be the cheaper airport, so I was flying out of Green Bay. So I called him, and he's like, man, I moved to Vegas. I was like, okay, well, I got to give me another one up here then.
Well, you've got a guy in Vegas now.
I do. Well, I've actually got 2 guys in Vegas. So I've got 2 guys in Vegas. I've got 3 in Columbus, Ohio, to take me down to Chillicothe. I've got, I've got them all over. I was counting the other day. I got like 75 of them. In fact, actually, one of the gals there at the office, she's like, do you got anybody out there? And I'm like, yeah. I sent her a number to a guy, pick up out in Illinois, and he's actually out of Chicago, and he'll come get you.
With having 75 people on your speed dial there in your phone, how much would you estimate over the last year building up that Rolodex has saved you in actual dollars and cents?
So time is money, and time is everything. That's the one thing that you can't get any more of. The sand is coming through the hourglass, the clock is ticking, whatever you want to say. If I can sit there and I can call that cash Uber and say, hey, man, I'm unloading at Bathgate, North Dakota. We're going to be done about 1 o'clock. Can you be there to pick us up and get us down to Fargo? And that way I can catch my plane because it's the last one out. And he's like, yeah, man, I got you. And he's there waiting on me when I get done. And I show up at 3:20. I check my bags in time. I get on that 4 o'clock flight. I land in San Antonio at 11 o'clock at night. And the next morning I pick up another load and take it. That's an entire day that I am racking up those miles and putting that money in my pocket rather than sitting there trying to figure out how to get out of there. And I've trust me, it ain't just cash Ubers. I've hired Snow Plows. I've called a John Deere implement and had them come out in the middle of Kansas to deliver a part and give me a ride back to Salina. I've found some very interesting ways to get out of the middle of nowhere.
Tell me about the Snow Plow. That certainly piqued my curiosity.
Well, so that was actually outside of Dayton, Ohio, about 20 miles north or so. And it was back in, I want to say it was December or January. And I just I was sitting there and I tried to call an Uber and there was nobody. And I got a guy out of Springfield, Ohio, but he was stuck behind a wreck and he wasn't going to be able to get me there for a couple of hours. And my flight was at 5 o'clock. And I was looked over and about probably 1/8 of a mile away, I see this red pickup with a snowplow in a Walmart parking lot. And I walked over there like, how much you charge an hour? He's like, well, $100. I'm like, well, you can be right to the airport? And he's like, I don't think I've ever done that. I was like, it's going to take you, 30 minutes to get over there and 30 minutes back? $100 sound good? He's like, yeah, sure. Might as well.
That's being resourceful.
Oh, I grew up resourceful. I grew up the son of a tractor mechanic who cut his fingers off when I was 8. And I learned to be a tractor mechanic at 8 years old. I mean, in the middle of nowhere, to where you don't just call up the dealership kind of deal. You don't just, you measure 3 times before you cut because it's 120 miles to get another 2x4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to figure it out. There's no one to do it for you.
How much has that helped you today?
Man, it's been a hard life. It's been a truly hard life, but it built me up to the point where I could do things and I had the confidence to do things. Like when I was 17, I was swapping motors and big trucks. The mechanical side of this is nothing for me. Like my first training load, my trainer was back behind me a little ways, and because he got hung up in traffic, couldn't get over kind of deal, and he had to go out the long way. And by the time he got there, I already had all 4 axles and all my airlines done because it's not a big deal.
What kind of truck are we talking about here?
I was a Freightliner, just a Cascadia.
Gotcha.
So I come from the background of figuring out how to do everything because nobody's going to help you. So my dad and my cousin on the side, they would build fire trucks. So, of course, I got to help do that. And so we would build them, paint them, welding, plumbing, everything. We did it all.
From bumper to bumper?
Everything. Now, we're not talking like E1 engines that are cruising down the road, in the city. We're talking about wildland trucks and Actually, one of them, we built a fire truck out of a tank.
Wow. Tell us about that.
That was actually pretty cool. It was not my idea. I'll give it to Randy. It was his idea. It was actually a tracked personnel carrier, and we just basically put a tank and a pump and a monitor and all that and roll cage, and there she went. There's actually 2 of them now in the Texas Panhandle that pretty much get called to everything big and bad.
That's pretty cool to have your name behind that.
Well, you know.
You're listening to the Tales and Tricks of the Trade from Lloyd Dittfurth here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Now, Lloyd, you started us off at the top there. I think you said you were just outside of Waco, Fort Worth. Where are you now?
Actually, that was Waco, and now I'm coming into Hillsboro.
Gotcha. Now, you picked up in Von Ormy today, and you're headed to Joplin, is that right?
Yes, Joplin is. Well, I got to go to Kansas first, drop off 3 at Hackney, and then boogie on over to Joplin, drop, and then I got a cash Uber there too, and she's going to take me over to Tulsa because flying out of Tulsa is about $200 cheaper than Joplin, and she does it for $100.
So you're saving.
So I save $100.
There you go, $100 back in the pocket of Lloyd there. I wanted to ask you a quick question there about your runs. I was looking. You do a lot of runs out of Von Ormy, is that correct?
Well, I actually live there. I actually live down I'm closer now that we're homeless for a bit. But, yeah, I actually live about maybe 10 miles away from the yard.
How convenient is that?
It's a little more convenient than when I was 30 miles away from the yard, but it's pretty nice. I like picking up in Von Ormy. It's pretty easy. You follow the rules. You go out there and you pre-trip your stuff, and then you leave.
Does your wife drop you off at the yard, or how does that work as far as your transportation in and out?
Well, I used to drive my pickup over there and drop it off, and then it got to the point where there's just so many people picking up out of there that leave their vehicles parked there that my wife's like, well, why don't you just Uber down there? That way we don't have to fool with going and getting your pickup and stuff whenever you get home. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So now I just leave it at the house and I Uber over there. Unless she's at work. If she ain't working, she takes me.
Gotcha. Now, kind of paint the picture for us what the yard's like. Of course, we know what it's like, but a lot of people who may listen to this when it airs there on the podcast, kind of paint the picture of what the yard looks like at Von Ormy and what the process is like for you once you're picking up 3 or 4.
Well, so when you pick up, you just check in and let them know you're there, which is a pretty big deal because summertime in Texas, there's a lot of rattlesnakes. I don't know how many they killed down there, but I'm sure there's more than one. They like to crawl underneath trucks. So if you don't check in, you walk to the back of the yard to go find your truck, and you find it, and you lay under there to do your Z-bar, and you cuddle up next to a rattlesnake that says, I don't like you, and you die under that thing. Ain't nobody can know you're there.
Has this happened to you before?
Checking in is a pretty big deal.
Has this happened to you?
Rattlesnake bites or?
Just seeing one or coming up close to one?
Oh, yeah. So I kind of going back a little bit. So after I got out of my small hometown and got into trucking and everything, and I got in the oil field, I did frac tanks, and then I would do drilling rigs. And let me tell you what, there ain't nothing like doing 80 mile an hour backwards with a 150-foot derrick on you. Yeah, that's awesome. It's called two trucking, by the way. But we would pick stuff up, and there'd be just mounds of them underneath there. I mean, they like cool, dry places, and you always want to look underneath and listen. Because, yeah.
That will get your attention, no doubt.
Yeah, worst part's being a horseback, and your horse finds one.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Do you ride horses?
Oh, I ain't rode in a long, long time.
Do you miss it?
The expensive thing that only eats and always gives you hell. Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's certain peacefulness sitting on the prairie and everything as the sun's coming up, and you got that morning dew, and you're checking your cattle and pushing them out of the wheat back up in. That way you can do some doctoring and all that. And there is a special place there, but I mean, you can get the same thing whenever you're cruising through the mountains, coming through New Mexico, and you get that same kind of feeling. It's just you don't have to worry about the horse getting pissed off because he doesn't like you hanging on.
Gotcha.
So,
now, let's see. After you get to Joplin, you said you were Ubering from Joplin to Tulsa. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then back to San Antonio?
Yeah, and then picking up Saturday and hauling butt for L.A., and then I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I'm sure there's something that needs to be ran.
Those are some good runs, particularly that one to Fontana.
Actually, I like picking up out in California, so I'm hoping there's a Heber out there.
Sure, hopefully you can get you something back. Now, let's talk a little bit about, you and I were talking before we got together here, a little bit going back into the life of Lloyd. This year has been, I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but it's been somewhat of a turning point for you.
Well, you mean the good parts or the bad parts?
Now, let's talk about the good, then we'll work our way into the bad and then back to the good.
So I have met some incredible people, and I have learned so many things in this world. I have changed so much, like just from the people I've got to hang out with. Last night I was sitting there drinking beer in O'Hare at the club with a trillionaire.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, oh yeah, this guy has 4 separate businesses that he runs. I say trillionaire, it's a little different, but he's got his hands in 4 different businesses, doing radio communications. He actually he developed the digital X-ray. Like, he had the patent on the digital X-ray. It still does.
You just never know who you're going to bump into.
But the thing that I've learned the most is value, and valuing everything, from people to time to monetary assets to things you purchase. And all of those have really changed my life. For example, I was the guy who would I'd buy a pair of boots every year. I'd just get me a steel toe pair of Ariats, call it good. And I had somebody ask me, like, because my boots needed to be changed and everything, and he taught me a lesson that day, and he said, so those boots right there, they're about to fall apart. How long you had them? I was like, about a year. And he's like, oh, really? Like, yeah. And he said, so why don't you actually buy a good pair of boots? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, why don't you buy one of those $200-$300 pairs versus that $100 pair? I'm like, because they're $200-$300 pairs. If I'm gonna wear them out in a year, he's like, don't you think maybe they might be a little higher quality? Well, I kind of took that and I was like, well, all right. So I bought me a good old pair of double H boot or H&H boots, and they're about $350. And I've had them for 9 months now, and let me tell you what, they're just like they were brand new, and they'll probably last me about 5 years, which is going to save me about $400 in total, in my opinion.
That's a valuable lesson there, and I got to ask you about the comfort for a guy like yourself who is on the road so much. Have the H&H boots paid off in comfort?
Well, so I kind of got to the point where I wear my tennis shoes a lot more than I wear my boots, just because whenever you start running through the airport, and I try to do a little bit of working out and utilize my time rather than just sitting drinking beer all the time. So I can work out a heck of a lot more in tennis shoes than I can in boots. Don't get me wrong. I'll work. I'll play basketball. I'll do whatever you want in boots. But tennis shoes sure makes it a lot easier.
Gotcha. Now, we've talked a little bit about your stays at the United Club and stopping down, getting a beer there. What's Lloyd's beer of choice?
Well, I would say Michelob Ultra. That's usually my go-to, but it depends on what's free, because if they got Miller Lite on there, I'll drink that too, as long as it's free, which, I don't know, a lot of times I've been coming in there so long. There was one day I walked in there and I looked like death. And she just made me a margarita. She's like, here you go. You're going to need this.
Was it frozen on the rocks?
Yeah, it was on the rocks. But that was actually funny because they FaceTimed my wife that night. And, well, I was FaceTiming my wife, and they were laughing because they were going to get me good and tutored up before I got home for her. And they did. Oh, Lord, they did.
How'd you feel the next day?
Oh, got up 5 o'clock in the morning. Then we drank coffee, and I went and picked up a set of trucks and took off.
Gotcha. It's like clockwork.
Yeah, got to keep going. Them bills ain't stopped.
You were talking about the value, and you've kind of touched a little bit about it. And if you're comfortable talking about it, kind of take us back. Life wasn't always easy for you, was it?
No, it's, I mentioned my dad cutting his fingers off, but, that was the end of my childhood right then. But, growing up the poor kid, And I'll be honest, I had kind of a little mouth on me. I didn't really know. I had ADHD before they knew what ADHD was.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty annoying. So nobody really liked me, and everybody just kind of took advantage of me and my family, and they still take advantage of my dad to this day. And I had one instance, like, so I got a YouTube channel that I do a lot of stuff on, and I had a gal who I thought was my friend. My mom and her mom were friends, and one night we were going to a meeting, and then came back, or me and Ray Calloway were going to a meeting, and we came back, and her and her wife had decided to drink all my beer, and which kind of irked me a little bit. And I got mad, and they were like, "Why the heck did you do that?" And she's like, "It's just Lloyd." And that really bugged me for the longest time. And I kind of took it and made it my mantra. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
And just roll with it.
And you've kind of extended that out too. It's just Lloyd means more than what had happened before.
Well, they had that leaderboard. At first quarter I was here, I came, well, now granted, we had found out my wife had cancer. And we were going to have to come up with like $20,000 in cash by the 7th of January in order to get that paid off. And let me tell you what, when I hit it hard, and I'm making a point to go. You give me an obstacle, and I'm going to achieve it. So they actually they're like, "Hey, we need a name for you on the board. We can't just have this question mark at number 2." And because I think I ended up that quarter, I ended up at number 5.
That's admirable. That's noble, man.
I didn't knock it out completely, but I made all the money I needed to have for my wife so she could have her surgery, and I was able to still take a few days off. I would have stayed at number 2, but while I was taking a couple of days off for Christmas, other guys were running, so I got bumped down.
Well, that's okay. You were there for your wife.
It is what it is.
Your wife went through cancer, is that right?
Yeah, we found out she had breast cancer, and then, November 7th was the meeting with the oncologist, and then we had to have the money. We actually were making payments on it, but we had to have it all to the surgeons by the 7th of January. In order to have everything done. It was crazy. They actually had a contest that quarter that was done right there before Christmas, and I actually won 3rd place in it. So got an additional $2,500.
Oh yeah, $2,500.
Yeah, it actually got me to where I could spend a few days with her before, over Christmas and stuff. We didn't have any problems before she went to surgery. And I even got to stay home with her for a week after her surgery before I had to get back on the road because, somebody got to make that money.
Gotcha. Now, you were talking about if an obstacle comes up in front of you, you're ready to challenge it. I'm assuming leading up when you were hit with that big news, if you had to have $20,000 for the surgeon, I'm assuming that you did a tremendous amount of running. Kind of paint the picture for us of how much running you did before that moment happened as far as making the actual payment.
So there was one morning, it was Thanksgiving morning. I came in the night before to Sioux City, Iowa. And if anybody's ever delivered there, they know that there are no Ubers in Sioux City, Iowa. And I get there at like 9:45 at night, and there's a cold front blowing in. It's starting to rain a little bit, turning to snow. It ain't going good. And I undecked that thing, got her on the ground. I literally sit there and I was like, well, hopefully that airport's open. And I grabbed my box and I walked 3 miles to the airport. I think it was like 22 degrees or something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
But by golly, I made it. I made it to that airport. I got home for Thanksgiving and I picked up the next day and I took off.
That had to be a feeling of relief to make it going through those types of trials.
Oh, it's been a journey for sure. Don't get me wrong, I've failed, but I've only failed to meet my own expectations, and my own expectations are extremely high. I would never do anything thinking I'm going to be mediocre. Like, I want to be not the best of the best, because I don't believe in that. I believe if you're the best of the best, you're just self-proclaimed, because being one of the best, though, is where I want to be.
Doing the best you can.
Anything, if you're at the top tier, you have nobody to learn from, and you can't learn anything. You're done. But if you're part of one of the best, then you can always continuously grow and learn in order to better yourself and better your process.
We're going deep with Lloyd Dittfurth here on the Six Figure Trucker here, brought to you by Norton Transport. And you were talking about there not being the best, but one of the best, and if you get to the point where you're not learning, you're done. And you and I had talked before, you're all about teaching. Tell us a little bit about what teaching means to you and how you approach it.
Well, so I got to throw a little bit of history there. So I started in trucking, and then in 2008, I kind of went down with the ship like everybody else. And I decided I was going to go to school, get in the fire service and all that. Well, I went to the fire service. I did some time there, got into doing inspections, and then I actually wrote bills for the state of Texas and, well, for a representative. Then I got called to testify on them in front of the legislature. And then I worked for the state of Texas after that, and then I was the trainer for all of the new inspectors in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty big feat for me, and I love teaching. I love teaching, but I love teaching people who want to learn, kind of deal, and developing curriculums, things like that. It was quite wonderful. So I started doing YouTube videos because there's not a lot of information out there, and there's so much misinformation that comes from guys who, they do it this way, but what people don't realize is nobody can ever tell you the best way you can do something, period. Nobody will ever tell you the best way to drive from A to B. Nobody will ever tell you the best way to put your pants on, because one person may say you use the left leg first, and the other may say you use the right leg first. The only way you can figure it out is if you observe and learn from other people and figure out your best way. So I put out there the way that I have learned in the simplest way and the safest way I can find out. And then people can take from there and expand upon it, and it kind of creates a conversation that people can learn their best way.
Now, your YouTube channel is also called It's Just Lloyd, is that right?
Just Lloyd.
Just Lloyd. Take us inside that YouTube channel. What kind of things can drivers see there? What is it store? What's the channel all about?
Well, I started doing it because I just started doing it over my life. And so a few months ago, a little longer than that, there was a driver who got pancaked up and just a horrible wreck coming across 10 in Louisiana. And I'm now at 75,000 miles this year. And the law average is running down, and I'm getting there to where over 20 years of driving and everything, I'm getting to the point where I'm looking down the barrel as something's got to happen soon. So I started doing YouTube videos, just kind of going over my life and what I do. That way, if something was to happen, my kids would know what my life was, what I did, and the ups and downs kind of deal. So I started it just to document my life. As far as doing the training stuff on there, that actually came because I've got a couple of Facebook pages. Well, I say I got a couple. I got other guys that help me with them. But I started doing the YouTube videos and putting them on those pages because I was doing lives at first, but lives delete after 30 days. So I started doing the YouTube videos and sharing them to the pages. And then it kind of actually gets into kind of a discussion, and people can be free to ask questions and learn. Actually, one of your previous guests, Brian Bonar, he actually comments on it a couple times on videos and adds things to it that maybe I didn't say, but somebody else could pick up. So
how important is it to you to have your own stamp on that YouTube channel, but more importantly, to have a network of other guys who contribute, like Brian Bonar?
So for me, it's not, I'm never the guy in the front. Like, I will never be the guy in the front. I'm the guy who sits there and surrounds himself with amazing people. And, if you have a team and you know the value of your team, you can do amazing things. I got to give credit to like him, Michael Kolobe, Chepe, which Deck Demon, whatever you call him, Sleep Racer. There's a lot of guys that get on there and they help people. And we all kind of, get on Facebook and we're sitting there. Heck, I was up the other morning catching a flight at 2:30 in the morning, and there was a gal that was coming through Jackson, Mississippi, and she had a hell of an air leak or something. And I think the air governor was going out in her truck, and managed to talk to her and get her into a truck stop at 3 in the morning. I mean, just kind of tell her the tricks that I've learned over the years. She made it and she was safe, and that's all that mattered to me. I don't ever know what happened to her, honestly.
She was in Mississippi?
Yeah, Jackson, Mississippi.
Gotcha. And that's got to be, I know from talking with you, you're not a guy who is a self-seeker, not looking for credit for anything, but I would imagine that was a warm and wholesome feeling to be able to help her in her time of plight there.
I've got about, I'm going to say 20 or 30 guys who call me all the time when they have issues. One in particular, he was one of the guys I trained, and he got out there and he called me, and he never calls. Well, he calls, but he never really calls when he's on a load with good news. There's something going wrong that he can't figure out, and he needs help. And he called me one day, and I was like, all right, what's wrong? And he said, no, I just wanted to let you know, man, I did it. And I'm like, didn't tear nothing up? He's like, no, man, everything was smooth. It went great. All trucks delivered. Everything's amazing. I'm headed to the house. I'm like, cool, man. Good job. And that is a feeling that, when they call you and they're that excited because they had all these things that they had to overcome and they were able to, that means more than anything. So it's growth.
I guess it speaks to the brotherhood of deck drivers and drivers at large.
Yeah, it ain't like it used to be. I'm old school though, so I remember back in the days, whenever cow trucks would be rolling down the road, and you'd see 5 of them pulling over because there was one guy broke down, and they'd be trying to help him out, and most of them would know it. There's still a lot of that out there with owner operators, and Facebook's made it a lot better. There's a Facebook group called Big Rig Shots. And dude posted up on there about a guy who was stuck in Arizona and needed a turbo for a C-15 Cat. And just happened to be somebody in Phoenix was out there. He's like, I've got one, drove it down there to him. It's starting to get back to it. That's for sure.
That's amazing that you guys can stand up for each other like that and help each other out. And do you see that as much in Driveaway, or you were talking about back in the day it was more like that? Do you see that as far as that defense of one another in Driveaway?
Man, it is and there ain't. So there's a lot, and it's a people thing. I had a situation the other day. The guy came in and he undecked his Z-bars and everything, and was going to have to call a record and move him. I'm like, well, if you'll hang on a little bit, let me get mine knocked out real quick, and then maybe we can get a cheaper rate and we'll split it. And he's like, oh, yeah. Great. Well, one of his trucks didn't start, and so they had to call a wrecker to take it up to the dealership. Well, the wrecker came, hooked onto it, took it to the dealership, and he's like, I'll be right back, and we'll call the wrecker. I'm like, cool. Well, I never heard of him. Never heard from him. Finally, I called my dispatcher, and they get me his number and stuff because he was with us. Nah, he found out it was going to cost $1,000 to get him moved, and he just left so I could do it for him. Yeah. That was but there are those people. There are people that they're not the great hands. They're not going to move. They won't share oil pans with you. They don't care. But there's other guys that are like, hey man, I'm in a hurry and I know you're in a hurry. So let's just go ahead and knock this out real quick. And we'll just get both our loads done and get going. Sweet, man. That's great. And 2 guys, it doesn't matter. 2 guys working on 2 loads. You can sit there and you can knock it out real quick because you need to be in so many different places at once. And it works very smoothly. But a lot of guys, they'll wait until you help them and then they'll bounce.
I guess
So,
that says more about the person than it does about the industry, because it varies, as you kind of laid it out for us there. Some will, some won't.
yeah, can't really say, but, I will say this. Once we all get to the airport, we all have a good time. So
I bet you do.
Future reference, don't go drinking with Hal or Gabe.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, either one of them. No, don't go drinking with them because, I don't know if you can hang.
They're good at what they do.
Very much so.
Gotcha. We talked about that you kind of have been someone who's overcome adversity, and I think you touched on it a little bit. You were homeless for some point?
So, my wife had her surgery in January, and then March 7th, she goes back to work. She wakes up that morning, and she's like, oh, it's raining outside. I just got my hair done. And it wasn't raining outside. It was raining inside. Well, it turned out there was a pipe busted in the attic, flooded out half the house. The landlord said, yeah, we'll get her fixed in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks. And then 3 months later, still ain't fixed. And I come home, and I'm like, her second surgery is supposed to be in 2 days. I'm like, man, we're just going to have to, move our stuff out of here and go live in a hotel until we can get this stuff taken care of, And he's like, blah, blah, blah. Basically, he was just wanting us to get out and so he can jack the rent up. And he did. He raised the rent on the next people by $1,000 a month, which is fine. It is what it is. But it actually was a good thing because it forced us. We'd planned on getting a fifth wheel. We'd planned on getting one as soon as the kids got out of school, but we were just hindered by stuff. So then again, whenever that happened, I had literally 45 days to come up with a down payment sizable enough that we could get a fifth wheel without having an outrageous interest rate. So we managed to get it, and we got a really nice one. It's a 42-footer with 4 slides, 2 bedrooms, a little upstairs bunk kind of thing.
Just you and the missus? Just you and the wife?
Yeah,
nice.
Just us. So it works out good, though. And one of the reasons is she may be getting transferred to Tennessee. Well, Tennessee, and there's been talk about Ohio, too, so we don't know yet. But that's one of the reasons we got the fifth wheel is because that way we can just move.
Right. Have you guys been able to use that fifth wheel for trips, for leisure, for camping, that kind of thing?
Well, so back in April, I decided that I wanted to get a new pickup. Well, I didn't decide I wanted to get a new pickup. I went to get my oil changed, and the salesman who sold me my previous pickup, he says, hey, you ever think about trading in your pickup? And I'm like, well, not really. He's like, no, seriously, man. He's like, I can get you a good deal on your pickup. And I've got a diesel pickup sitting over here I can't sell because at that time diesel was just going through the ever-loving roof.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I can get you good. So I ended up getting $10,000 more than I originally paid for my pickup, and then got that pickup, which it's a super fancy half-ton with a Duramax in it. I mean, it's just nice. I mean, it's the entire dash is a screen kind of deal. And I ended up getting that for $52, and I only raised my payment by a little bit. I mean, it was not bad. So yeah, but it's a half ton, and we just got it whenever all this happened. So we don't have anything to pull it with yet.
Gotcha.
So my next purchase is I want to get a 362 cab over Peterbilt with a single axle. And I actually found one out in California. And I'm going to go look at it on Monday. Don't tell my wife.
Hey, you're safe with me. No secrets revealed here. You're listening to Lloyd Dittfurth, some of his tales from the road here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Lloyd, what's it been like for you to be able to have these opportunities that have been presented to you now that you are on the road as a driveaway trucker, deck driver? What's it like to be able to see the fruits of your labor?
I look back at the last year and everything that's happened. And previous to this, I was an owner-operator, had my own truck. But I look back in the last year, and we figured it up, and we have had about $70,000 worth of unseen expenses come up, and we've been able to cover them. And it's not a big deal. I mean, I've been able to, like when my son got married, we were able to send them on their honeymoon kind of deal, which wasn't a big deal. They just, hotel room away kind of deal. That's what they wanted. We're actually going on vacation with some friends of ours to Niagara Falls. We went to Florida back in April, right after I got that pickup on vacation. It's really less stressful.
I guess it's got to be a good feeling to be able to send your son off on his honeymoon and be able to take those vacation trips. I mean, is that something that, when you combine that with what you've been through with your wife having the cancer, the lawsuit, the pipe bursting in the place where you were living there, but you see the ray of sunshine that's come through.
It's just nice. You look at the money and everything, and actually I was figuring it up the other day, and I think I'm going to break $250,000 this year.
Nice.
Honestly,
very nice.
I think my gross is going to be $250,000. Last time I checked, I was up around like 190 or so. So in last quarter of last year, I did like 85. So I think I'm going to easily, even though I'm about to start slowing down because, I need to start working on my physical appearances, maybe spend a little more time in the gym and a little less in the seat. But I'm thinking that it's going to be good.
Did you ever see that day where you thought, hey, I'm going to make $250,000 gross doing what I love to do?
So, yeah, I've already been there several times. Back when I had my trucks moving rigs and stuff, we had multiples. And we were making really, 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 really good money. And I've always, whenever I was in the oil field, and actually, like all the guys that I grew up with in the oil field, they actually are running all the major companies now. But we were making just tons of money. And I'll tell you this, though. In the oil field, it's knuckle dragging, get her done, slimy, nasty, mud up to your knees, colder than hell. Granted, I inducted in Bathgate, North Dakota, and my eyebrows were freezing shut back in February when it was -30. But that kind of stuff is normal in the oil field, and you're sopping wet, and everything about it sucks. But I make more money with more perks, more fun, more everything here, and more freedom than I ever did there. Yeah, I may do 80 hours a week, but I do 80 hours a week and 10 hours a night is, in a nice, comfy, king-size bed, or I might be staying at the Marriott and, I'm riding first class and sitting in the club drinking free beer. You don't get that in the oil field.
That's good times. You were talking about more money, more perks, more freedom. Of all the people we've talked to here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport, freedom seems to be the most common theme that comes out, which Driveaway offers to you. If you were going to explain that to someone who may listen to this and may be considering Driveaway, how would you put that into context, the freedom that you get? For you personally, kind of walk us through that.
So this conversation happens a lot. So it doesn't matter what company you're with. Like, granted, I did 18 days with an orange company that before I figured out they were basically, not doing me very well, and they were making all their money off what they were charging me instead of off the customer. But we all get to talk while we're at the airports, and you get to know these guys. Mm-hmm. And you know what every company has and what every company doesn't. Norton is the only one who puts all loads on the board for everybody to see. They're the only ones. Now, they may not put them up there, right away because they're waiting on them to hit the yard, but they put all loads up there for everybody to see. Everybody can see what loads are there. No other company does that. Every other company, you got to call in and hope that your dispatcher likes you, and they may give you something you might want. Other than that, they'll give you some things that they really need to get out of the way.
We believe in being transparent and flexible, because you guys are the backbone of what we do. Without you guys, we're nothing.
And the other side of that is, I will say this about Norton, that in talking to all these guys from these other companies, they're honest to a fault. Like when we just had that bonus for $4,000,
mm-hmm.
all the other companies, their bonuses were only like 3,500, 3,600. I never understood that because everybody was getting the same thing, but they were taking it out of their drivers versus giving the whole amount over, and there's times where you can call up and be like, hey man, I know I was booked on this load, but it's not going to work for me because this, and this is happening. Can I switch out? Like, I'm very much a person of time and making things flow. Well, I had another load, but it wasn't going to work because I was going to be kind of stranded over the weekend. I wasn't going to be able to run. But taking this Joplin, I'm going to deliver it tomorrow, pick up on Saturday, and deliver on Monday. I can stay running all weekends. And Norton works with you on that. But a lot of companies, once you get that load, they don't care if you're stranded for 5 days.
Right.
They got the load off their board.
Yeah.
Whatever. You ain't getting out of it.
More money, more perks, more freedom here. Lloyd Dittfurth here. More money, more perks, more freedom. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us on the Six Figure Trucker. What would you say when you look into, you had mentioned earlier at the very beginning of when we first started speaking there, sand is going through the hourglass. True for all of us, true for you. How long do you see yourself staying in the Driveaway trucking industry?
Oh, if I can go back to myself when I was 22 and say, this is what you should have done, I'd still be doing it for the rest of my life. But in all truthfulness, I think this is something that I will do forever. I say forever, for a long time. I may slow down a little bit. Like, I probably don't need to make $250,000 a year, but I can always amp up. I know what I need to do. So if I slow down to the point where I only run a week or two out of the month, that's fine. But I may be that guy who's 70 years old and still going and taking the easy load because I can do it. But, that'll give me another 30 years, right?
It sounds good. Lloyd Dittfurth, who was gracious enough to join us here on the Six Figure Trucker. Check out his YouTube channel. Go ahead and plug it.
Just Lloyd.
Just Lloyd.
Just Lloyd.
Just Lloyd on the YouTube channel. And we thank you so much, Lloyd, for joining us here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. I'll give you a shout here after we get off the air here, but thank you again. Anything in
one more thing, boss.
Sure.
One more thing. The Facebook pages that we've got that all these guys comment on is deck drivers and CDL, or deckhands and CDLs, and then deckhands and driveaways. So those are the two that we got that most of the guys comment on. If you got a problem and you put it out there, you'll get a response from somebody.
Gotcha.
May not work for Norton. They may be with Active or Auto Truck or somebody else, but they still try to help you out.
Gotcha. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us here on the Six Figure Trucker. We've been very informational, very educational, and hopefully very helpful for somebody who listens to this on the Six Figure Trucker podcast. Thank you so much, Lloyd.
Thank you.
Six Figure Trucker is brought to you by Norton Transport. Norton Transport is a drive-away trucking company that customers can rely on. It offers excellent independent contract driving opportunities to professional, courteous, and qualified drivers that can provide the kind of service we deliver. If you're interested in learning more about Norton or just want to subscribe to the show, check out 6-figuretrucker.com. That's 6-figuretrucker.com.